Good afternoon, Terrier Nation. My name is Jared Plate, Sports Information Director here at Hiram College, and welcome to our new editions of Terrier Talk, where we'll sit down with coaches and players throughout the season and discuss all the happenings around Hiram athletics. Our first guest on the new year is head coach Chris Kibler of the men's basketball team. Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you. Anytime we get an opportunity to talk about our program, we certainly get very excited about that and enjoy it.
So basically what we're going to do is just preview the upcoming season, and we'll jump right into it. You guys came off a 19-win season a year ago, second most wins in school history, big wins over Worcester, Ohio Wesleyan, who was number 4 in the nation going into that game, and both teams that ended up making good runs in the NCAA tournament. So, it seems like there's a lot more parity happening in the NCAC, and coming off of that 19-win season, what sort of expectations have you put on your boys this year?
Well, we always kind of use a motto, Jared, of we want to exceed expectations. And with that in mind, we know expectations can change as the season plays out. It certainly did last year. We were picked 10th. We ended up finishing 3rd. And we were in there with 4 or 5 other schools battling 3 through 6 for a large part of down the stretch there. So we just try to stay in the moment and say, hey, we want to exceed expectations, and what those expectations are really are defined in the moment. I think we would love to host another tournament game. That was an exciting atmosphere last year, so we'd love to do that. And to do that, obviously, you got to finish in the top half of the conference.
Talking about exceeding expectations, you guys certainly did that last year with picking up wins over the Fighting Scots and the Battling Bishops both. Being that you have a relatively experienced team now, that they went through some of those experiences last year, what sort of confidence does that give the guys coming into this year?
Well, I think that's exactly it. I think it's given the program a little bit of credibility in the direction that we're headed. But they now know, hey, we can play with the best teams in our conference. It had been quite a while, I think 18, 19 years since we'd beaten Worcester. Ohio Wesleyan, we've been able to compete with, but a lot of times come up on the short end of the stick. And so to beat 2 teams of the caliber that those 2 programs are really, again, just gave us a lot of confidence that we felt like on any given night we could play with anybody.
11 total players come back from last year's squad, 11 letter winners. And, being that you only field a team of 18 or 19 guys, what does it mean for a program to have that many experienced ball players coming back?
Well, I think what it's really done, Jared, is we've established a culture here, and that culture now can permeate down and really with the puppies, what we call our freshmen, they come into an established culture. What our expectations of a Hiram basketball player are, and it gets everybody on the same page. And when everybody's on the same page, then obviously the opportunity to achieve your goals are increased.
Let's dive into the kind of the nuts and bolts of the 2016-17. It's no secret that you guys like to play the up-tempo style. I think you guys ranked in the top 5 in the nation in possessions per game, last year. So what sort of advantages does that provide for your team, and do you kind of expect the same sort of game plan this year?
Yeah, we'll definitely still play very much up-tempo, press the entire game, push the ball in transition as much as we can. I think, advantages are it's a fun style to play. Kids like to play that style. It's a fun style to coach, and it's a fun style to watch. So I think there's a lot of advantages from a standpoint of recruiting, not just prospects. It's also advantageous in recruiting a fan base to come out and support the guys. And so I think that's some of the advantages that we've had. The other advantages might be, it creates more competition. You get more guys on the floor, more guys involved in practice and games. And so those are a lot of the advantages that I think come out of this style. Plus, we're unique to our conference. We're the only one that does that. And so it makes us a little unique when other teams have to prepare Hiram.
All NCAC selection Kelvin Jones comes back for his junior season. What sort of leadership role do you expect him to move into, and what do you expect out of him this year?
Well, I think Kelvin's, in my opinion, is he's a potential All-American before his career's over. He's going into his junior year. Last year, he averaged a double-double in one of the best conferences in the country. So you got to be a pretty special player to do that. Kelvin's what I call a reluctant leader. He's not real outspoken. He's kind of introverted in that way. He's not an introverted kid. But again, he does his job, and that's kind of his leadership style. And I'd like to see him get on board a little bit more. Joe Zoltowski and Paul Ortiz were captains for us last year, and they're a little more outspoken guys and do a little bit more serving the team. And so I'd like to see Kelvin at least this year set the table and becoming that role going into a senior year.
Those gentlemen that you mentioned, as well as Isaiah Matthews, also returned to the front court. So what do you expect out of your forwards and centers as the year progresses?
I really think this year's the strength of the team is going to be inside. Kelvin, again, is a returning all-conference kid that's just taken the next step. Had a great summer playing a Pro-Am league and competed against Division I kids and really held his own. So we expect a lot out of him, particularly probably from the scoring standpoint. Isaiah Matthews returned, started every game last year, really put a lot of time in this summer, so he's an improved player. His confidence has improved. So I expect a great year out of him. We've added Marcel Rice as a transfer that we recruited out of high school. He went to a Division II school, came back. He's 6'7", extremely talented young man. We just got to get him to understand the intensity level that he's got to play with every minute of the game. We also returned Jake Williams will play some forward spots. He's a kid that as a junior hasn't had a lot of opportunities to date. But he's an incredibly athletic kid that brings a lot to the table, and Brevin Dye is a freshman that we expect good things from in the future and potentially this year as well. And then you throw into the mix that Joe Caspio is a 6'8" returning senior that for a lot of programs would probably play a lot, but playing behind Kelvin, his minutes get limited a little bit because everybody's 4 out, 1 in, and that makes it tough to play those two together a lot. But Joe has really come into his own. We expect another, kind of had his coming out year last year, and we expect a great year out of Joe as well.
Let's change gears, talk about